Greetings to you who are genuinely on a quest, who are not merely hearing but absorbing with your soul. Every person on a path of growth reaches a plateau where more information ceases to be the answer. Another article, another podcast, another workshop no longer quiets the unrest inside. You start to sense that the truths you chase are not somewhere else, but are vibrating silently within you, awaiting your attention, waiting for you to quiet the chatter, release the need to be right, and simply be. But there's a principle, one you've likely felt without grasping its significance. The moment you uncover a profound truth about your own nature, the moment you contact a reality that reshapes your perception, a powerful impulse arises to broadcast it, to articulate it, to tell the world. This is a normal human response. It is the mind attempting to lock in its new understanding. Yet the old traditions teach a different way. Guard your tongue. This is not for shame, nor is it to conceal a treasure, but because some insights, when verbalized too quickly, forfeit their power. Certain truths are like molten metal. You do not expose them to the open air the instant they are drawn from the fire. You let them cool in the mold. You allow them to harden. You give them the space to become unbreakably strong. What is rarely said is that speaking prematurely is an egoic act. We speak to be witnessed. We crave approval for our discoveries. But genuine wisdom is not cultivated in the soil of external validation. It is forged in quiet application, in private struggle, in living your insight, not just announcing it. There is an ache in awakening, for you begin to perceive what remains invisible to others. You will carry yourself with a new gravity. Your focus will shift away from what it once craved. Your spirit will feel wary in loud places. You will transcend relationships and settings you once fought to enter. And within this transformation, a feeling of isolation is inevitable, the kind of isolation that creates an urge to explain yourself, to demonstrate to others that you have evolved, that your vision is now sharp. Yet, silence is the ultimate mentor, because in silence you are no longer trying to persuade anyone, you are simply integrating the reality you've found. The resilience of your change does not depend on how many people you inform. It depends on how fully you embody it. Guard your tongue, not because others are undeserving, but because what is sacred demands protection. A day will come when you observe the world and see how easily energy is squandered in words, how often we give away our leverage by trying to articulate what we ought to be embodying. You will grasp that not everyone has earned a key to your inner sanctuary, not due to any malice on their part, but due to their lack of readiness. Some are on pathways you have already journeyed beyond, and if you offer them the key to your high place, they will only use it to critique your ascent. They have not yet reached that altitude themselves, and it is not your purpose to carry them with your talk. You are not meant to be a persuader. You are meant to be an example of evolution, and evolution is mostly a silent process. It unfolds in the private moments when you pick discipline over distraction, when you retreat from discord rather than fueling it, when you stay with your discomfort instead of escaping it. These are the choices that forge an unshakable being, not the times you talk, but the times you act. So, the next time you feel that internal shift, that moment of clarity pressing for release, that profound insight forming on your lips, hold it. Inquire within, is this for public consumption, or is it for my own integration first? More often than not, it's the latter. You have a duty to yourself to integrate this gift. Let this new secret remake you before you ask it to remake the world. Because once it is real, once it is a fundamental part of who you are, no explanation will be necessary. Your very presence will communicate it for you. Your aura, your deeds, your stillness. These will resonate with more force than any sentence ever could. This is the source of genuine influence. This is how you become centered. You cease broadcasting your development. You cease outlining your journey as a story in progress, and instead you live from the conviction that it is already established. Discover the principle, and once you have it, guard your tongue. A quiet directive governs our universe that is rarely discussed because it defies simple explanation. It has to be experienced. The directive is this: wisdom voiced before its time tends to evaporate, not because the wisdom is weak, but because your bond with it is still new. When you make first contact with a core truth, the feeling is like a current of electricity. It illuminates your consciousness like a flash of lightning. Instantly, all the pieces connect. The struggle, the hurt, the uncertainty, all find their place in a larger design. In that flash, the desire to share it feels like an emergency. But this is the instruction so many miss. Not all revelations are meant for immediate discussion. Truth carries the nature of fire. If your character is not yet tempered to hold it, you will get burned and risk harming others. The initial glimpse is never the final form. It is the invitation to a more profound practice. Expressing your insight too early is like pouring a fine wine into a fractured glass. The value drains away. It is wasted. Understand that your words contain creative energy, but they also bear a great weight. When you speak on matters you have not yet fully integrated, it's akin to creating a blueprint for a city you have only imagined. The dimensions will be flawed, the foundation unsound, and anyone building from that plan will be led astray. The practice of silence after a realization is not a form of self-denial, it is a shield. It shields you, giving your mind, body, and spirit the time needed to come into alignment with this new awareness. It shields the wisdom itself, allowing it to put down deep roots in your conduct, your daily choices, your essential nature. Because until your everyday behavior mirrors your breakthrough, the breakthrough remains just a concept. And concepts are fragile. Their final form is shaped not just by our inner clarity, but also by the world's reaction to them when they are spoken. When you offer a significant insight to an unprepared person, you are not being generous. It may feel generous, but you are placing your inner work in jeopardy. You are handing something of immense value to a person who cannot appreciate its substance. They will question it, belittle it, or ignore it, and if your own conviction isn't solid, their dismissal can make you doubt yourself, unraveling what was once a moment of perfect knowing. This is how the ego cloaks itself in the guise of magnanimity. This truth must be shared, it proclaims. But the truly wise do not hasten to instruct, they let their existence become the curriculum first. Real mastery needs no introduction. A fruit tree does not yell when its branches are heavy, it simply stands in its silent, powerful growth. Those who require its fruit will be drawn to it. In this way, your own maturity will reveal itself over time through your posture under stress, your compassion for others, and your freedom from needing acclaim. This quality of being will communicate more than any dissertation ever could. It is critical to recognize that some individuals feed on your vulnerability to affirm their own stasis. If you declare your new understanding to those invested in staying the same, they may attempt to pull you back, not from cruelty, but from their own fear. Your light reminds them of their own shadow. Your coherence highlights their confusion. Thus they debate you, not because you are inaccurate, but because they are terrified you might be right. And if your own roots have not sunk deep, you will be shaken. This is the reason silence is the first step, not forever, but long enough for your truth to solidify into unwavering strength. Speak only when your words are free from the need for consensus. Share only when your reality cannot be destabilized by another's disbelief. At that point, you are no longer trying to sell an idea. You are simply stating what is. There is yet another level. By withholding your insights from speech, you give them permission to work on you internally. They start to re-pattern your behaviors in subtle ways, the way you begin your day, the way you pay attention, the way you disengage from energies that drain you. These are the markers of genuine change. They are quiet, they do not crave an audience, but they are palpable. People around you will sense it. They may not have the words for it, but they will register a change, a new stability, a centeredness. That is the vibration of a person who has found something real and has held it closely long enough to become it. So, when your next moment of deep knowing arrives, challenge the impulse to broadcast. Let your calm contain it. Let your quietude nourish it. Let your choices embody it. And eventually, when the seedling has become an oak, you will see that you have no need to speak at all. People will seek you out not for what you say, but for how you are. And when you do decide to speak, they will be captivated, not by your volume, but because your silence first captured their curiosity. That is unshakable power. That is knowing the principle and knowing when to hold your peace. There exists a difficult but vital truth in life that almost no one is equipped to handle. Not every person is prepared for what you have learned. Not every soul has the capacity to see what you now perceive, and not every heart is strong enough to hold the awareness that has been granted to yours. When wisdom dawns upon you, it feels like a treasure, but the error we consistently make is in believing it will be seen as a treasure by others. It will not, especially if it is unsolicited, and especially if they remain invested in the very paradigm the wisdom helped you to transcend. The fundamental quality of truth is its disruptiveness. It shatters comforting falsehoods and illuminates corners many wish to keep dim. It calls for transformation, but transformation is rarely comfortable. Therefore, when you offer truth to those unready for it, it will not be embraced. It will be met with opposition, with scorn, sometimes even with hostility. Picture yourself entering a space where everyone has been living in darkness for a generation. Their vision has adapted to the shadows. Their sense of safety is tied to the stillness. And then you arrive, fully awake and radiant, and turn on a bright light. You assume you are offering a gift. You are certain you are sharing the light of understanding. But to them, you are a menace. Not because your light is false, but because it upends the entire reality they have constructed around their own blindness. In our lives, readiness is the master variable. A truth offered at an improper time is no different than a falsehood. This is why wisdom's primary virtue is patience. When you grasp something profound, something life-altering, your duty is not to immediately go out and enlist followers. Your duty is to absorb that truth, to live by it. Let your life be the demonstration of your new understanding, because unless a person is already on a quest for that truth, your words will register as mere static, or even worse, as condemnation. This is particularly agonizing when the people you care for are the ones still in slumber. You yearn for them to awaken. You desire their growth. You wish for them to perceive what you now perceive. But personal change cannot be gifted. It must be undertaken. It is a path to be walked, not a package to be delivered. The butterfly cannot coach the caterpillar into its future form. It can only set an example by flying. Sharing your deepest insights with the wrong audience is like sowing fertile seeds on pavement. Regardless of the seed's potential, it is impotent without soil, and by insisting on trying to force it, you deplete your own spirit and are left feeling invalidated, unheard, and sometimes betrayed. The resulting pain is not because the truth was flawed, it's because you failed to assess the preparedness of the soul before you. A subtle pride can also exist in the notion that it is your responsibility to enlighten others. It is not. Awakening is a private affair. No matter how elegantly you speak, no matter how pure your insight, it will not land where there is no receptivity. You may wish to grab people and tell them how much more is possible, but until they are prepared to listen not only with their minds, but with their entire being, your words will have no purchase, or worse, they will be distorted, ridiculed, and used against you. This is how silence becomes a tool of wisdom. When you hold your peace, you are not forsaking the truth. You are respecting it. You are communicating. This is precious. This is not for amusement. This is not a debate topic. This is a powerful force, and I will not offer it to someone who is content with their own confinement. Let your existence be the call to adventure. Let your quiet life spark questions. Let your internal order disturb their internal chaos, not through sermons but by your sheer presence. People are moved not by arguments but by resonance. If you truly grasp something life-changing, it will repattern your body, your choices, your values. Others will sense it. They may be silent at first, but when the moment is right, when their own soul is finally ready, they will approach you. And when someone inquires from a place of genuine seeking, then and only then is the lock ready for the key. This is how true transformation spreads, not by coercion, but by vibration. You live your truth so deeply, so quietly, that it becomes an energy field. It becomes magnetic. Those who are ready for their own ascent will feel its influence, and they will approach you not to challenge or debate, but to learn. Until that moment, guard your inner wealth. Hold it in the silent chambers of your heart. Let it mature inside you before you ever attempt to speak of it. The world might not be ready for it, but you must be. Because if you attempt to convince others before your own core is fortified, you risk being dragged back into the very state of mind you fought to leave behind. And that is the unspoken peril of sharing too soon. Your truth might be real, but if it is still forming, the wrong atmosphere will shatter it. So hold it tight, let your stillness be its incubator, and trust that when they are ready, they will finally hear you. Until then, walk your path in peace. There is a vast distinction between force and power. Force is the capacity to act, power is the wisdom to know when to refrain from acting. This is the point where many misinterpret what mastery is. They mistake power for loudness, for assertion, or for control. But genuine power, the kind that re-sculpts lives and bends destinies, is quiet. It is poised. It craves no spotlight. It makes no grand entrance. It has no need to, because its own essence is its validation. When you encounter a person who has navigated great suffering, confronted their shadows, overcome their personal demons, and returned with wisdom, you will sense something refined but potent about them. They have no urgency to make a point. They listen with more intensity than they speak. Their being carries a certain gravity, not because they force it, but because they have earned it through internal trials. That quality is restraint, and restraint is the signature of one who possesses power but has elected to master it. We are immersed in a culture where every person is clamoring for notice, for affirmation, for praise. Our digital spaces, our dialogues, even our personal bonds have turned into arenas for self-presentation. Everyone is broadcasting, but few are truly receiving. Everyone is sharing, but so much of what is shared is hollow. It is a storm of noise, and within that storm, the individuals wielding authentic power are the quiet ones. Those who recognize that certain truths are too vital for casual discourse, that wisdom is not an award to be paraded but a flame to be guarded. You see, restraint is not a sign of frailty. It is not an admission of defeat. It means you have cultivated the discipline to override the knee-jerk impulse to react, to talk back, to set the record straight, to be the dominant voice. It means you can hold your center when challenged. It means you can permit another person to be mistaken without feeling compelled to intervene for an ego boost. That is not weakness, that is wisdom. Because the second you feel the need to prove a point, you have surrendered your own value to another's judgment. And that isn't power, it's a lack of confidence disguised as conviction. A sacred discipline exists in holding your truth inside, in freeing it from the need for external agreement. Certain things are meant to be lived, not just spoken. When you discover something deeply transformative about yourself or about life, your immediate reflex might be to become a herald. But wisdom is not a stage play, it's a way of being. It must first be absorbed, woven into your character, and made tangible through your actions. Consider the master artisan. The most skilled craftspeople are not those boasting about their technique, they are the ones who appear calm, focused, even modest. Why? Because they do not need to advertise what they know, they have absorbed it into their very fiber. Their self-control is not a performance, it's a state of being. It is the product of practice, of endless repetition, of humbling mistakes and hard-earned successes. They have learned that true capability is not what you advertise, it's what you reserve. The same law applies to inner development. The more you know your own soul, the less you need the world to know it. The more profound your awareness, the less you feel a need to debate. You stop needing to win arguments. You stop seeking a round of applause. You allow others to underestimate you, to misunderstand you, even to dismiss you, because you have learned that your truth is not contingent on their acceptance. That is true power, silent, rooted, and unshakable. But restraint does not just preserve your power, it intensifies it. Every time you hold back when speaking would be easy, every time you choose presence over a performance, you strengthen your inner foundation. You become more coherent, more centered, more impactful. Instead of diffusing your energy outward to persuade, you direct it inward to purify yourself. And with every act of deliberate quietude, your discernment deepens. You start to see with great clarity who is worthy of your energy and who is not, who is prepared to listen and who is not, what is essential and what is an illusion. This clarity becomes your inner navigation. It steers your decisions, not your reactive feelings. Because you are no longer reacting, you are responding from a place of intention. This is the turning point of transformation, when your life ceases to be a reaction to external events and becomes a conscious expression of your inner truth. In ancient wisdom traditions, restraint was invariably a marker of spiritual maturity. It signified that you had reached a state where your tranquility was no longer up for grabs, where you would not permit people or events to disrupt your inner peace. And the most formidable aspect of that state is this: people can feel it. They may not have words for it, it may even make them uncomfortable, but they sense it. And over time, they start to interact with you differently. Not because you demanded their respect, but because your composure made them inquisitive, made them wonder what secret you hold that they do not. And when they do finally ask, you'll recognize their readiness. You will not need to persuade them. You will simply speak, and your words will find their mark because you waited, because you valued the truth enough to guard it, and because you did not drain your power by trying to demonstrate it before the time was right. That is the essence of walking with quiet power. That is what it means to know the principle and to guard your tongue. There arrives a moment in every person's growth where the most influential move you can make is to remain silent, not due to a lack of things to say, but because you have come to grasp that silence is itself a profound dialect. When used with discernment, it communicates more powerfully than any rebuttal, any justification, or any argument. Silence is not the void where power is absent, it is the arena where mastery is present. In the initial phases of self-discovery, we often feel an intense need to articulate our journey. We want to distribute everything we have seen, felt, and concluded. Like a cup filled to the brim, we feel we must share it with everyone. But as we mature, we start to notice that not everyone is listening from the same place of depth. Not everyone is prepared to hold what we fought so hard to find. And crucially, not every context is worthy of our inner voice. That is the point at which silence transforms into a deliberate strategy, one born not of timidity or compliance, but of perception and choice. In silence, you unearth your own hidden drivers. Are you speaking from a need for affirmation, a desire to be correct, or because your identity needs an audience? Or can you be quiet enough to safeguard your energy, to allow others to be in their own truth without it threatening your own? Silence pushes you to inspect yourself with a rawness that speech can't offer, because once you strip away the layers of explanation and rationalization, only your truth remains, stark and unfiltered. Confronting that truth without the buffer of words is where true evolution occurs. A timeless practice resides in stillness. The world scrambles, protests, broadcasts, and performs, but you do not. You observe, you sense, you comprehend. You learn to perceive what happens between the words. You attune yourself not just to what is spoken, but to what is left unsaid. You begin to identify the motives, the facades, and the intentions that fly under the radar for most people. In stillness, your perception is honed. You grow more attuned to energy fields, to minute shifts in a person's demeanor, to the unspoken emotions people carry. This is not accidental psychic ability, it is awareness cultivated by design, and it is constructed in quietude. Contemplate the master strategist. Their advantage lies not just in their knowledge but in their capacity to observe an opponent, to wait for the exact opening to make a move. They are poised, centered and silent, and when they act, their action is born not of impulse, but of impeccable timing. This same law governs our lives. When you have perfected the art of silence, you no longer contribute to the noise. You speak only when you have something of substance to give. And when you decide to remain quiet, it is an intentional act of authority, not of helplessness. In human relationships, silence can be more mending than a difficult talk. At times, people do not require your solutions, they require your centered presence. Sometimes they do not need to hear your perspective, they need to hear their own inner voice. When you cease filling their processing time with your opinions, you create a space for them to digest, to find clarity, to evolve. That kind of quiet support is an expression of profound respect, not neglect. It communicates that you have faith in them to navigate their own path, just as you navigated yours. And when you face your own suffering, silence can be a heaven. You have no need to publicize your struggles for them to count. You have no need to live tweet your recovery for it to be authentic. At times, the most significant healing unfolds in the quiet when you can sit with yourself in stillness, free from external opinions, and allow yourself to simply exist, to feel, to process. This is the incubator for change. In stillness, the fractured aspects of yourself start to integrate, not because you willed them to, but because you gave them the quiet space to reform. Silence also fortifies your vision. The more you discuss your aspirations, your strategies, and your ambitions, the more you leave them vulnerable to cynicism, jealousy, and resistance. There is immense power in moving quietly, in constructing without fanfare, in transforming without narrating. Let your results speak for themselves. Let your peace be your testament. When you hold your intentions as sacred, they become more potent. They take deep root. They are no longer dependent on applause, but are fueled by an inner sense of purpose. And finally, silence nurtures patience. The world will constantly attempt to bait you. People will provoke you. Life will present you with trials that seem to demand an immediate answer. But in stillness, you learn to pause, to watch, to respond from a place of strength rather than from emotion. This doesn't mean you become mute. It means you speak with purpose, with focus, with gravity. Your words, when they finally emerge, carry substance because they have been forged in the quiet fire of restraint. This is the principle that so many miss. They believe power must be loud, that wisdom must be articulated, that truth must be shouted to be valid. But those who have seen deeper know better. They know that silence is not a vacuum, it is a plenum. It contains your resilience, your wisdom, your insight. It is your shield, your practice, your declaration, and your protector. So once you know something in your core, not just with your intellect but in your spirit, your heart, and your bones resist the reflex to proclaim it to the world. Instead, allow it to inhabit you. Let it steer your behavior. Let it recalibrate your habits, because the world does not need another loud voice. It needs more people who have the fortitude to be silent until their time to speak has truly come. And when it does, they will speak not to be seen, but to illuminate. Until then, allow silence to be your greatest teacher. The road to wisdom is not built with words. It is etched in stillness, hardened through self-control, and traveled in solitude. Once you have truly internalized this, once you have experienced for yourself the profound power that silence holds, you no longer feel a need to prove to the world who you are. You stop seeking the external validation that once felt essential. You cease engaging in conflicts your spirit has long since moved past. You simply are, and that state of being, it is cultivated in the quiet moments when there are no witnesses, in the pre-dawn stillness when you are with your own breath, in the late night hours when you review the choices of your day, not to judge yourself but to fine-tune your path. It is born in your stillness, your patience, and in the way you deliberately choose to respond rather than react. It emerges from the words you consciously decide not to utter, the accomplishments you don't feel the need to parade, the pain you no longer need to justify. There is a deeply formidable quality to the person who has outgrown the need to be loud. That type of power is non-negotiable. It is anchored. It is not swayed by praise or by censure. It does not depend on being witnessed or comprehended. It just is, like a great peak unshaken by the blizzard, like a candle whose light holds steady against the gale. The person who holds a great truth and practices silence is not denying others. They are honoring the sanctity of what they have earned, because that is what real insight is. It is earned through direct experience, through suffering, through failure, through difficult decisions, and through quiet endurance. And the more profound the truth, the less inclined you are to share it lightly, not because you are secretive, but because you have reverence for it. You understand its weight. You understand that wisdom is not for decoration. It is for remaking the self. And before it can remake anyone else, it must first completely remake you. So you carry it within. You allow it to temper your frustrations. You allow it to sharpen your awareness. You allow it to quiet the ego, and you allow it to direct you like an infallible compass, even in the most disorienting times. You no longer search externally for guidance because you have learned how to heed the quiet within. And in that quiet, you find clarity. You find composure, the kind of composure that doesn't arise from a perfect life, but from your freedom from needing to control life's imperfections. The kind of peace that remains stable even when people misunderstand, doubt, or attack you. You do not engage in a fight for validation because your energy is now precious, your focus is precious, and your internal state is not for sale. You do not give it away for trivial reasons. That is when your life starts to rearrange itself, not because the outside world has changed, but because you have. And your internal shift, though often invisible, has an undeniable effect. You move with a different grace. You speak with a different resonance. You make your choices from a place of solid intention, not anxious need. You invest your energy with great care, and you protect your stillness with fierce devotion. You do not permit noise to enter your heart. You do not permit confusion to chart your course. You have become still, and in that stillness, you are formidable. People will register this long before they can define it. They may not know what draws them to your presence, why your words feel substantial, why your tranquility feels like a sanctuary, but they are responding to the fact that you have done what most people will not. You have gone inward. You have dwelled in the silence long enough to learn that not everything needs to be verbalized, that not every truth requires an audience. Some are meant solely for you. So when the world attempts to pull you back into its state of chaos, when it baits you with applause, with conflict, with the illusion of recognition, remember this: you are not on this path to be loud. You are here to be clear, to be grounded, to be authentic. And often, the most authentic action you can take is to say nothing at all. Let your life be the evidence of what you've learned. Let your deeds echo the insights you've gained. Let your silence teach with a force your voice never could. That is how you earn respect without requesting it. That is how you exert influence without exerting force. That is how you protect your own power and continue your growth uninterrupted. Because once you've found the principle, once you have tasted the kind of clarity that cannot be purchased, compromised, or taken, you will understand exactly why you must protect it, not from the world, but for yourself, so that it can continue to guide you, so it can continue to refine you, and so it can continue to do its silent, profound work within you. In a culture fixated on speaking, adopt the discipline of listening. In a culture addicted to distraction, embrace the courage of stillness. And in a culture desperate for recognition, choose the quiet journey of becoming so potent they will feel your presence even when you are silent. That is when you will know the principle was never meant to be announced. It was meant to be lived quietly and completely.